cops on a mission to be champs since they let me free.
Prepare for combat, my adversaries crumble. Face it, I got a reputation for damage. Busters get ready to rumble. They lock me in a cell, have me trapped in a living hell. Though not guilty, I'm still in jail. Brother, I serve my time like a soldier. Maintain composure. My shadow boxing the fight to the death, busting boulders. Every boxer with a pair of gloves. Best give up love. Here's a man from the makings of a thug. A lethal weapon, mind sharp. And in my heart, there's a wish to shake the world with the flurry of my black fist. Now once a high school dropout, now I'm the $1 million champ. Who's the next to get knocked out?
What's going on, everybody? Another episode, the 200th episode, a very unspecial 200th episode of Cheap Seats Boxing Show. Angelo here. It's my turn to do my thing on my own. JP did his earlier. It's crazy we're giving you guys two shows in weeks like this, but of course we're going in a different way. We're giving more opinion-based pieces with some of the boxing news mixed in. First things first, follow us on Twitter, Cheap Seats Box, iTunes, Stitcher, rate, review, and subscribe. Be the next unofficial sponsor. People, help us out. You can take the time out to do a 2-minute rate and review. We will shout you out, man. We really appreciate it. You'll be the unofficial sponsor. What it really does is just help keep the show visible. When you search boxing on iTunes, we are the 4th show that comes up. So people don't even have to really look around to find it. So, welcome to all the listeners. Every platform imaginable that I can think of. Very few that aren't included. And you can email us, cheapseatsboxing@gmail.com. Questions, comments, anything like that. We would appreciate you guys interacting with us because we always get back to you guys. Anybody who's ever emailed knows I will respond right away. All right. So this last weekend, another humongous weekend of fights. Tony Bellew with a third-round stoppage of B.J. Flores in a fight that was more memorable for what happened right after the stoppage of the fight than actually what went on in the fight. Flores tried to start off fast, had a pretty decent first round. Second round, he got hit low, turned to the ref to almost like ask the ref, well, you're not going to say anything about this? And Bellew took full advantage of it, went over there, smacked him a couple more times. He went down, knocked him down 2 more times after that in the third round, and I think 1 more time in the third round. Over, quick stoppage. Flores is Flores, and let's be honest, Tony Bellew, not the greatest fighter ever. He's probably barely a top 5 cruiserweight, and then, of course, after the fight, he's jawing with David Haye, and David Haye and him are now supposed to fight. Bellew calling him SpongeBob SquarePants. He actually, from what I understand, he actually meant Sideshow Bob. It's actually who they were actually talking about from The Simpsons, which actually is a lot closer. That's definitely a lot closer than SpongeBob SquarePants. But I guess it's a big fight domestically in the UK. I'll watch it, but I still have yet to ever understand the David Haye phenomenon in the UK. I mean, this guy can throw on his own fights, sell out the place, get millions of people to watch on the internet. I've never understood the David Haye hype. One of the thinnest heavyweight resumes ever, and yet people still think like he's some kind of a threat. He literally has 0 big wins as a heavyweight. If you want to count Nikolai Valuev, go ahead. If you want to count, I think he fought John Ruiz. If you want to count those guys, who are probably 2 of the worst heavyweight champions ever, only to be surpassed recently by Charles Martin, then go ahead. But, I mean, we were talking about this before when he was going back and forth with Shannon Briggs and talking about, I'm going to fight Shannon Briggs. I was like, that would probably still be considered his best win as a heavyweight. Even a diminished old Shannon Briggs. So I've never understood the hype. He was a pretty good cruiserweight. It seems like he's juiced up to heavyweight. I mean, can't I assume that since the fact that he got dropped by the WBC for not enrolling in the 24/7, even though he knew he was going to get dropped out of the rankings, and that other fighters ended up entering into it after they got dropped, and the WBC said we will reinstate. I think Vanas Martirosyan was one of them. Amir Khan, there was a couple others, and David Hayes' name still wasn't on that list. So is he still not enrolled? Is he, So it's almost like you can almost assume that, well, there might be some illegal shit going on. That could just be my hate for David Hay. That's just what it is. What I really wanted to talk about this week was a couple of things. First is the old bait and switch in boxing. And everybody knows what this is. It's the dangling out of fights and then settling for a different fight. And in this case, we got the dangling of Anthony Joshua and Vladimir Klitschko are going to fight each other. You see, I paused that and I kind of spread that out. Going to fight each other because they didn't fight. They're not fighting each other. They're fighting. Each one of them are fighting, but not each other. This is what boxing does. They want to give you the bait and switch. They want to get you guys excited, pumped up, and then a letdown. I never understood that. This is what Floyd Mayweather used to do so well. And he actually did it well because he would bait and switch with shitty fights. So he'd start off, I'm going to fight Devin Alexander. And everybody, what the fuck are you talking about? Nobody wants to see that shit. Okay, I will fight Robert Guerrero. This is the shit that he did, If you people remember, he even dangled out the old Kareem Mayfield for that final fight. And everybody, Kareem Mayfield is terrible for that kind. He's a okay fighter, but for that level, it's like, no, that's terrible. Well, I'm fighting Andre Berto. Then everybody starts accepting it. And see, what he did was he dangled out pure shit. And then he would give you something less shitty, and it would seem pretty good because, hey, look, it's not what we thought we were going to get. It's going to be even better than that. So he had people buying into that, He was the master of it. It got people into it. And if you go back to the first Maidana fight, nobody wanted that fight. That fight only ended up being better than people thought it was going to be. People wanted Amir Khan. People kept on voting for Amir Khan. People in his own poll voted for Amir Khan. And then he gave you Marcos Maidana. See, he was famous for that bait and switch. And it turned out he gave you a better fight because he would have destroyed Amir Khan, and that first Maidana fight was really tough. Where these promoters now, they do the opposite. They dangle out great fights and give you shit. And all that does is make the boxing public and the boxing fans who are going to try to support something like that more upset. They're not going to appreciate that. You dangle out Joshua versus Klitschko, and what do you get? Joshua versus David Price, and Klitschko versus Lucas Brown, and Ruiz versus Parker. Could have been Parker versus Joshua, and that's not what we get. It seems like each one of those three guys took the road of least resistance to get their title shot. For whatever reason, Klitschko was really stuck on a WBA title. That's the one he won. I don't know why. There's probably no sanctioning body more hated on it right now than the WBA with all the title belts and the consolidating, the not consolidating. Nobody is more of a joke right now with the four sanctioning bodies in the WBA, but for whatever reason, Klitschko was really stuck on that. So he gets it. He gets Lucas Brown. Yay. This kind of goes right into the line of the guys he used to fight. Because, is he going to fight Parker? He could have fought Parker if he wanted to. All he had to do was say yes for the WBO title. He could have fought Joshua. He could have just said yes, we'll just do it for the IBF title. No. I want the WBA title. Klitschko stopped fighting guys who were big threats power-wise a long time ago. I think the last one probably was Samuel Peter. And we saw Peter in the first fight knock him down 3 times. He'd been knocked out 3 times before that. But this is what Vlad does. His brother took care of the heavy-handed guys, and he fought the less heavy-handed guys, or guys who could punch but were way past it. He didn't fight prime punchers. He stopped doing that a long time ago. So this falls right into line with it. But it's the old bait and switch. This is what boxing gets this bullshit so wrong. Like they think dangling people out there to fight big fights and then giving you less than, somehow that's going to drive you to want to go see their fight. Even Manny Pacquiao, look at this. He's fighting I think a once beaten champion, and everybody's shitting on the fight, including me and Jesse Vargas, because it really proves nothing. But what was the names that were thrown out there? Danny Garcia, he turned it down. Adrian Broner, he turned it down. Even Terrence Crawford's name was mentioned, but he didn't want to fight above 140. And then so we get Jesse Vargas. So that gets people pissed off. These guys dangle fights in front of Triple G. Oh, we're going to fight. Billy Joe Saunders, he wants to fight him, and so does Chris Eubank, and so does Danny Jacobs, except they never do fight him. So does Canelo Alvarez, but then nobody fights him, so then he gets a less than. They do the bait and switch on Triple G in a different way. It's not really Triple G bait and switching. It's the other guys doing it. And then so he gets stuck with lesser opponents. I think Triple G he gets lost in there, and then he gets shitted on for fighting lesser opponents. But that really isn't him doing the bait and switch. It isn't him leading us down a path that seems like we're going to get something really good, something we're really excited for, and then turn out we don't get that. No, he gets it from the other boxers. And so all that does is put a damper on the sport. So then you get nothing but angry boxing fans, and then who do boxing shows, and you get a lot of anger and a lot of animosity towards the sport and the business of the sport. And this is what you get. You get shows like this. And then people be like, you need to be more, we got good fights. Yeah, we do have some good fights. But nothing is ever set in stone. Oh, they sound good, and they could be good, but will they be good? I don't know. Because there could be some things, remember the Klitschko Joshua fight, they had already agreed to pretty much everything. There was just only a couple little details. Well, it looks like those details kind of kicked that one in the ass. Oh, Jacobs is going to fight Triple G. Well, he's not going to fight Triple G. Well, he is, but he needs more than just 6 to 8 weeks to train, which is what most people use anyway. No, he needs 10 to 12 weeks. I don't know who needs a 3-month training program besides Carl Frampton in his fight against Scott Quigg, where he needed the 12 weeks to actually get down to 122 because he was killing himself to do it. Maybe that's it. Maybe Jacobs was so fat that he needed all that time. I doubt it, but I'm just saying this is what you get. And it leaves fans bitter, because and the close of 2016 is still going to be strong. Not going to be as strong as we thought, but it's going to be pretty strong. I mean, all those guys are fighting, but they're not fighting the guys you want. Joe Smith versus Bernard Hopkins in his farewell fight. No, okay, that's on the 17th. Crawford's going to slide into the Jacobs fight, the Jacobs Triple G fight on the 10th on HBO. Whoever they're going to be fighting. Whoever he's going to be fighting, because it's a TBA for Crawford. Slava Shabransky Chigonski versus Sullivan Barrera. December 16th. It's going to be was on HBO Latino. That's a great fight, especially at that level. And this is where people start to kind of mix things up. Well, if that fight was on PBC, that'd be actually a good fight on PBC. But it's an HBO Latino card. There's hardly any money invested into the fight. If it wasn't going to be on HBO Latino, I'd almost guarantee you that's going to be on Golden Boy Live. So you have to be kind of fair with things, and that's what my second part was going to be, the PBC and their final push. This is going to be their big push. You're gonna start hearing a lot of big, and you're starting to get it already. It's starting to trickle out. And this is what I started talking about last week, and I never got back to it because we went so long. This is going to be their final shot. They're going to. I think they're really going to give us a lot of really good fights, and then people are all going to jump on it. See, this is what they were all. This is what PBC was talking about. This is what they were going to do. This was their plan all along. But I just don't know if there's any plan after that. You know, PBC is always the fights that lead to nowhere. It's always into a dead end. You know, Quillen Jacobs was a fight into the dead end. It was a good fight on paper. Didn't turn out to be such a close or good fight. Got a good outcome out of the fight. But then how did Jacobs capitalize on it? He sat around for like 10 months and it's, you know, or 8 months, and he fought Sergio Mora rematch. Okay, well then you didn't capitalize. It went to nowhere. You know, Frampton and Santa Cruz, well, that didn't really go nowhere, except now it's going to go into the rematch, you know, which is a pretty good fight. It's actually a really good fight. The rematch, I'll look forward to it. I'm sure this one's, I can't imagine it. I didn't even look to see where it was at, but I would imagine it. Frampton ain't fighting in Southern California. It's going to be an island, ain't it? But that one's going to be, on the undercard of that is going to be Mikey Garcia and Dejan Zlatikanen. A great fight. Maybe one of the best you can make at lightweight. Definitely one of probably the 2 or 3 best fights you can make at lightweight. Mikey Garcia off the long, self-induced layoff, coming in and fighting a beast like Zlatikanen. Give Garcia credit, man. He is supremely confident in his ability to take that long off, have one fight, and then go in with a beast. I mean, everybody jumped on the Zlatikanen bandwagon after he destroyed Red Catch, and nobody seems to really be in a hurry to fight him. Mikey Garcia signs up. Great fight. Mares Cuellar on the undercard got added to the undercard of Julian Williams and Jamal Charlo. That's a really good card. Mares Cuellar is a good fight. I think that's actually going to end up being the headliner because they moved to LA. Julian Williams Charlo is a great fight. I don't care if the fight ends up being boring. I don't care if the fight ends up being bad. Whatever. What you have is 2 young, undefeated, in their prime fighters. That's all I want. That's all I care about. I wish we get more fights like that. It was like the Crawford Postol thing. And I said that before the fight, and it ended up being a really boring fight. But I don't care if the fight's boring, because we got them at their best, fighting each other. So be it if it's boring. That's on them. But the fighters made that fight boring. Both of them did. But it's the promoter that doesn't do this very often, where they get those guys in their prime, some possibly undefeated, enough, and give the PBC credit for doing that. Give Top Rank and who's Postal's guys credit for that fight. That's all we want. And I think PBC is making their final push. They're either going to take off and the advertisements are going to jump up and they're going to start making money and the ticket sales are going to go up, or they're going to get the same thing they did. Almost no advertising money, very little tickets sold, and losing money, and then that's it. They'll be pretty much out of money and not out of business, but damn near close to it, I think, by the summer of next year. It's going to be one of the two. And they could easily capitalize and just start making money off of this, because they're throwing it. If people will start getting used to getting big matchups, quality matchups. Frampton Santa Cruz 2, Garcia's Zlatikanen, J-Rock Charlo, Mares Cuellar. Now they say the Danny Garcia Keith Thurman fight is a guarantee. I'll wait to see till that happens. And just so people know, the winner of that fight is not the best 147 guy. until Timothy Bradley retires and Manny Pacquiao fully retires, they're still the best. And if you want to say Pacquiao's quasi retired already, I buy that. I ain't gonna argue that at all. But Timothy Bradley is one of the best fighters in the world still. I don't care what anybody says. You put Tim Bradley in the ring with Thurman or Garcia, I favor Bradley. Bradley's still the man. As long as those two guys are retired and Kell Brook doesn't return. At this point, will they have a claim to it? Maybe. They'll have the claim to being considered one of the best or the best at 147, but they don't just automatically get it. Because these guys are fighting now so infrequently that we'll never get to see them at their best. We'll never get to see them at their sharpest. But it is what it is with that. No matter how long this PBC thing lasts, I think I'm really going to enjoy, and I think you guys as well are going to be able to enjoy a lot of great matchups. Besides for now, what you see in the future, besides what you see for Danny Garcia with that fight versus Samuel Vargas. Oh, good Lord, it's a terrible fight. At this point, that's the only really bad matchup that PBC has put out there as on their schedule. Everything else is a good matchup, and I think PBC is in that final stand. You know, it's a fight or flight type thing, and the time is now, and they have no choice at this point. They have to start delivering strong matchups, and I think we're going to get that. I think this is the beginning of it. This is what I really wanted to hit on when a lot of you guys who listened to episode 198, when me and JP did the show together, and I was talking about, that fight's going to happen. It's definitely going to happen. The Garcia Thurman fight. Now, and I'll tell you why. Well, I never got to say why. This is why. This is my point, and I never returned to say that point. But I really do believe that this is the last stand. They're really going to start delivering a lot of the matchups that we've been wanting. They have all these fighters, and they have only made a handful of great matchups on paper. Have they had good fights? Yes. They've lucked out on some fights, and they became better than they lined up to be. But as far as top, they have most of the top welterweights, and yet we still only have Thurman Porter for their great matchups at welterweight. Don't give me Guerrero Garcia. That was not a great matchup. Guerrero hasn't been good in a long time. I guess technically you give me Porter and Broner because it was at 144. But Spence hasn't been in a great matchup. Thurman has the one with Porter. Garcia, none. Guerrero is shot. I think the fact that we've seen him get beat by a couple of people will show you. Devin Alexander has been past it. They had a lot of the top guys, and they still have a lot of names there. They haven't made the matchups. You go look at 154. Great. They literally have every top fighter at 154 and almost every top fighter at 168. And how many great matchups have we seen at those weight classes? They haven't delivered. Now's the time. It's now or never. Either you're going to do it now or you were never ever going to do it. I think the time is now. I think PBC is doing it. We're finally going to see what they were promising. We're the best fight, the best, and we're going to give you championship level quality fighters and fights. This is what the PBC promised. Now they better be on Fox. They better be on NBC because this is what they promised. Don't start moving that shit to FS1. I guess you could do FS1. I mean, hell, they're carrying the NLCS, Spike, but. What we were promised was they were bringing big-time boxing back to network TV. So I want to see these on the network. I want to see him on CBS. I want to see him on NBC. I want to see him on Fox. That's what they promised, and that's what I expect. If you didn't want me to expect it, you shouldn't have promised it. they do that, people will be happy with it. People will actually start to turn some of their opinion. Now, like I said, will they follow it up? Will it lead to somewhere? Will these fights lead to somewhere? Will A, B, C, and D all fight each other? Will A and B fight each other and C and D fight each other? And then the winner of those two fights fight each other like at 168 or at 154? They better start, because people have grown impatient. And when they start getting a taste of great matchups, they're not going to really accept going backwards again. And that's the danger that PBC will fall into, is if they give us great matchups for the next 3-4 months, and then they want to go back to the so-so matchups to the really bad matchups, people are going to be even less willing to accept those fights. We shall see. That's the one thing with PBC. The one thing you can say, you have no idea what they are going to do, and I think that's because they have no idea what they're going to do. All right, I'm going to cut it off there. That was my little commentary, I guess you would say, on the PBC and the old bait and switch. Follow the show, Cheap Seats Box, on Twitter. Email us, cheapseatsboxing@gmail.com. Questions, comments, anything like that, I will always get back to you guys. That's what we do. Again, I like to shout everybody out. Hey, people who support this show, I appreciate you guys. Other boxing podcasts that support the show in the way of retweeting and pushing the word of the show, I appreciate you guys. So shouts out to Tail of the Tape. Shout out to Boxed Out Podcast. Shout out to the Sunday Puncher. Shout out to Rope-A-Dope Radio. If I missed you guys, I apologize. Check out all those shows, but always remember, keep this show in your rotation and rate and review us. You could be the next unofficial sponsor. We always give the love back. We appreciate all you guys. And until next week, I'm out of here. Peace.
Please believe that I'll never be shamed again. Again, I'll be the next heavyweight champion. Call me crazy, but no one can fade me. I'm the product of the projects, lost and crazy. Throw your hands up, Mr. No Ride. Big Mike Tyson about to brutalize that ass tonight. No hesitation, in front of the whole nation. I beat that ass so bad I probably violate probation. Through demonstration as I strategize information. Intent to kill, so it's real like I'm catching cases. Let the world know I plan to die. If I don't